if you've got the nice bit at the end, which is you get your key, you walk into your home, you can just completely glaze over the fact that actually to get there has been
you do forget the pain,
journey.
A bit like probably giving birth.
Well, so I've heard. Right, this week on JobsWorth, I'm joined by Tony and Sue Kelly, founders of Home, an independent estate agent based in Leigh-on-Sea. That's all correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
Okay,
Well
brilliant.
done.
Okay, thank you so much. Right, we are, as always on the podcast, going to start with the opening tradition,
Right.
which is the question. I'm going to start with Sue.
Oh, no.
Excellent. Takes the heat off.
When you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, okay. An actress.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mum wanted to be an actress, so she used to do lots of Amdram and things. And so I suppose that tradition sort of followed a little bit. So I worked in and did some amateur dramatics with her in Hackleton Village Hall.
Okay,
So,
brilliant.
yeah, did a
The
few
dizzy
bits and
heights
pieces.
of
Yeah, the
Hackleton
dizzy
Village Hall.
heights.
Yeah, of course.
The craziness of, no paparazzi there, obviously. And then I studied drama for 2 years at college.
Yeah.
And then I did some pieces for RADA and Lambda.
Amazing.
But then decided that I probably loved the idea of being famous, rich and famous, more than I loved the idea of actually wanting to be an actress.
Understood. Okay.
So, yeah.
Didn't pursue it any.
Didn't pursue it.
But RADA and Lambda, they're
huge.
They're huge.
Yeah, I mean, we were really
you must have
lucky,
had a real
actually.
talent to do that.
Well, I'm not sure whether I had a lot
Well,
of
I can say that.
talent.
Maybe you're uncomfortable saying talent, but you must have done to have been associated with that.
I was really lucky because we were in Northampton and it was a further education college and we had two amazing tutors. They were just really brilliant, Martin and Sally. Oh my God, I remember their name. That's a miracle. They were really, really intent on us doing proper stuff.
Right.
We did Titus Andronicus Shakespeare and we did some Bertolt Brecht and stuff. And
That's incredible.
Yeah,
do you remember
cool.
anything that you were in that you feel particularly fond of? Can you remember something where you felt either your
my
performance
goodness,
or
put
just
me on
being part of it was a big
I
thing?
think being part of it was great. Titus Andronicus, that was a Bertolt Brecht production, and that was a little bit hardcore.
Right.
It was just being involved. It was great. I loved it. At the time, I really loved it. Lovely people. Goodness knows, I don't think anybody's made any fame or come to an amazing career that I was at college with, but it was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was good.
All right, Tony, your turn. When you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a sportsman.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything I did, I suppose, when I was in my going up to my teens, I was actually lived in a area. It was called Wellingborough in Northampton, and a lot of the guys that I was brought up with were West Indian, actually, around our neighbourhood. They're all good sportsmen. So we used to jump over the back of our garden, play football, go down to boys' club, etc. But then it developed because I'd become a really good athlete. I competed in All England 100 metres, 200 metres. And
sprinter. Nice.
And also I played rugby for Northamptonshire and East Midlands. So I was really going down that route. And actually, before I actually looked at agency or anything like that, I was looking at becoming a PE teacher.
Wow.
So
okay.
that was my passion at the time. It was very much everything revolved around sport.
Okay.
In my early days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that almost being a product of your environment, being around other people that were good at athletes and sports people.
Yeah, there was one particular guy who was a bit of a wild card, a chap called Roy Anderson. And I remember the first time I met him at school, I think he ended up biting one or two teachers. And
how I have to ask the age now. How old was
then
Roy
I would have
Anderson?
been about 13, something like that.
Okay,
13,
so you should have control
maybe
of your biting by
But
then,
he
I
was a
reckon.
bloody good footballer.
Right.
And he encouraged me a lot. I wasn't particularly good at sport at that time, but we sort of bounced around a lot, you know,
Yeah.
and I remember him and a few other guys used to come around our house. We had little council house backed onto fields. My dad was a chimney sweep, and that's how he started off in life. But he was quite not strict, but he was quite firm. So when the guys used to come around to the house, he used to sit them all down and said, right, you can go outside, but you do your homework first. So this is the sort of structure, and all the boys used to come around and they listened to what he said, and then we'd go down the back of the park, and then we played football teams together, rugby teams together, and things developed from there. And as I said, I was going to go to Nonnington in Kent to study PE, but I broke my ankle in one rugby match for when I was playing for the Saints junior team.
Right.
And then I dislocated my shoulder on the next one, and I thought,
there's a sign here, maybe.
There's something going on. So I switched to squash.
The universe might be telling me my body's not.
And also,
quite
I
made
wanted
for
to
this.
earn some money. So, and I thought, when I get to about sort of 40 or 50, what am I going to do? So there was a bit of a change.
Understood. So
but I was always involved in sport. In fact, we met really because we were into water skiing. I had a little skiing boat, cheap little thing, but at a place called Scoobridge Ski Club, and we used to go there at weekends.
Oh,
in a
amazing.
former life. And,
wow.
Anyway.
So that segues beautifully then into how did you move into a state agency?
Right.
Because PE was calling, or like the prospect of becoming a PE teacher. So what?
I think what happened is I had a reality check about trying to carve a career. And again, put it back down to my old man. He basically said, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, well, I quite fancy something in sales. That's what I'd really like to do. So he's quite inspirational. He said, why don't you put an advert in the paper for yourself?
Wow.
Trying to get a job.
Yeah.
So there was a newspaper, the Evening Telegraph, and I put a paper in saying, young guy, whatever I was, I don't know, 18 years old, 5 GCSEs, looking for a job in sales, and this girl phoned me out the blue, Sandra Leach, and said, come and have a chat. Anyway, so I worked there for about a year, loved it, maybe, did quite well for myself, really enjoyed it, but it wasn't fulfilling in terms of what am I getting out of it, in terms of... great if you're selling Porsches, I suppose, but I was selling Hillman Imps at the time.
Right, okay.
So I had to change of direction and then looked for a job in estate agent. I just fancied it and went for an interview and started from there.
Is it a fair comment to say that a lot of people, and maybe it was different then, but it doesn't sound specific, it doesn't sound essentially like it is, but do people fall into becoming estate agents? I would say... Do people seek it out as a career now or then?
So from my perspective at the time, it was something that I wanted to do. And I just could feel that it was the right track. But if I look at the guys that work for us now, virtually all of them have fallen into it. One thing that I noticed with them, they all live and breathe it. They they know which property it is. They know what street. They know a lot of the owners. It's just a good vibe that it's not just.
But I think when you look back at us in the early 80s selling houses, that's how it was actually. And I do think weirdly property sort of gets under your skin when you're in it. And I agree, you might fall into it, but once you're in it, it's quite a compelling career.
Yeah. And I don't say that from an opinion of it not being one. I think there is a lot of parallels maybe. I run a recruitment agency, so I work in recruitment. A lot of people fall into recruitment. Then a lot of people stay in recruitment and turn it into a career. But it's not, I wouldn't say you wake up one morning and say, my vocation in life is to go and do this. And that doesn't mean it's not a completely valid route to go down.
Yes.
But sometimes the entry point, I feel like might be quite similar. And I just wondered if in the 80s, when you did enter the industry, there was more of a direct route, or if it was slightly more signposted than it might be now.
I think you looked upon it as a career, didn't you?
I looked at it as a career fairly early on. I just enjoyed it. I just thought it was I think you've got to be a sales type person if you like to get the most out of it. But I think that it's a lot of it's relationships, speaking to people. It's the obvious, but if you enjoy that, and I enjoy, and we both do, building up relationships with people, that I think was a really important thing early on.
Tony just said sales type people. What do you think a sales type person is? What's the definition of that?
I think you've got to be interested in other people. I don't think it matters what you sell. It's more about people, isn't it? Connecting with people, talking to people, bringing people in. And I think that's a really important quality.
It's changed, actually, to be fair, because I think in the early days, when I mentioned salespeople, it was very sales orientated. But as we move through now to where we are today, it's more of a relationship situation. That's how I would clock it going back. I mean, I've been in it 50 years now, and I look at the early days. I'm not saying that we're not sales orientated, of course we are, but I think the way that you approach things and that you deal with things, it's probably more subtle.
The focus was probably a little more on the outcome, being the sale. So I guess how we describe it now is you've got your transactional focus, which is I need to make a sale, and then you've got your relational focus, which is how do we connect with that human being through the entire process.
All of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think what we find now, it's more of a journey.
Yeah.
You know, probably if I go back, I don't know, 30 when we first started working together, which would have been
1982.
You know,
There's no shame in saying.
I think the difference was we'd have a morning meeting. There'd be a team of people in the office.
I think it was about 82.
And you know, it's very how can I put it? It was very not aggressive. That's not the right word, but it was hard.
Yeah,
it was like a more.
Yeah, it was. I mean, literally, we had to get in at 8 o'clock. So Tony was the director of the business, so he would be running the business, and it was a really forward-thinking company, actually, wasn't it? Called Kilroy's.
Yeah.
And it was quite a cool office for its time. It had a little waterfall in the corner, and it was great. We had a lot of staff. There was a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
I think probably 4 negotiators, 3 secretaries, 2 surveyors, a couple of valuers. So there was there was a big team, but we would have a morning meeting at 8:30. You had to be there at 8:30 on the dot. There was no light straggling in later. And Tony was really hard on everybody. If the phone rang more than 3 times, he would scream, 3 rings. 3 rings were notorious. And we were literally there till 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You know, and that
7 days a week.
7 days a week.
So, you know,
it was just how it was.
That was the environment we were brought up in those days. But we've changed. Everything's changed.
It evolves, doesn't it?
And actually, it's
It does,
changed for the better.
Yeah.
You know,
Of course it has.
I mean, I'm bringing it up to date now, but things changed with our business, I think, a few years ago, because the way we operate it. I was very much, I don't think dictatorial's way, but I wanted it the way I wanted to do it. And I'd probably run it quite hard. I still run it hard, but we had a very good friend of ours who used to live in an apartment above us on the seafront, and he's a business coach. And I never fancied coaching. I always thought I could run my business the way I want to run it, and it works fine. And it opened my eyes. It's been a transition. And I think what he's taught us, and he's a cool guy, and it's not hard tuition, it's just feelings more than anything, but mainly how to get the most out of people and let them own it, own any job they do, anything they do within our business now. You know, whereas we say, historically, I say, well, we need to do this, we need to do that. It's more a question, how would you do it?
Yeah.
How can we get the best results? It's not something I'm used to. It's an uncomfortable thing for me to let go.
Yeah.
But since we've done it, everybody has stepped up to the mark. They've bonded as a team. We have a fantastic relationship with everybody, with how it works. And we've learnt a lot, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think when we met up before recording a couple of weeks ago, the word I used was autonomy. You're giving people the autonomy and the power to get from A to B themselves, and you're there with the experience that you've got to give the parameters, the guidelines.
Yeah.
So if someone goes so far off kilter or off the path, you can nudge them back on without trying to give them this real rigid way of doing things, because that's how people burn out and
they're definitely developing. I mean, I listen to the guys. Actually, Amy's off this week, so I'm right on the ground floor back with the guys. I really enjoy it.
I was going to say, are you enjoying it?
Actually.
They're not enjoying it. He's
when's Amy back?
But what's interesting, when I hear them all speak, and it doesn't matter which one or who it is, they're also incredibly professional. They're very knowledgeable. They're very polite. Everything about it feels good, and they've developed themselves. You know, they've listened, they've learned. I'm listening to all of them, and I just think, you know, I sound proud. That sounds a bit. I am proud of what they are, what we've achieved. It sounds a bit cliche, but it just feels right.
Yeah. Well, you learn those things along the way, don't you? You get to a point where now you've built a home over however many years. It's not the finished article when it starts.
No,
It
absolutely.
might not be the finished article
Still
now.
learning
You might
now.
still evolve and still do other things as you go forward.
Yeah.
Take me back then a few years now, because we're going to come to the foundation of home and what you've built in Leigh.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to Northampton.
Yes.
Is that where you based initially?
Yeah.
You built an estate agents there.
Yeah.
So you've gone from working in a estate agency, finding that you've got a talent.
Yeah.
You've then met.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you've started to run your own estate agent.
Yeah, I mean, I never had a lot of money to set up a business, but we set up a business basically on when I say a shoestring. In those days, we probably had, we're talking in the mid 80s, probably about 20 or 30,000 pounds to put into the business, which is a reasonable amount of money, but in relative terms, it's still not a big. And
you'd have liked more.
Yeah, but we hit the ground running. I'd been in agency. I mean, I'd been in late 20s, 30s at that point in time, and Sue, we'd been working together for.
I joined in 82, so it was about 85
for several years. So we've got a relationship, and it was gelling, and we set it up. And Northampton's quite a tough town. I mean, it's a population of about at that time 250,000. It's similar to Southend, I think, in a way. And we started in 87, I think it was. And within 18 months, we became the number 2 agent out of 50. There was 50 agents there. It's crazy. And, it was just a really great time, interesting time.
Had a really young team.
We did some really wacky things. For example, you've got to bear in mind that you didn't have emails, internet,
computers.
You had a certain degree of it.
Yeah, but really, it was all book.
From a marketing perspective, you don't have access to Instagram.
Absolutely. Newspaper advertising.
But we did things that were different, which we've always tried to do. I've always enjoyed the marketing advertising side, and where people were taking little adverts, putting 20, 30 properties on a page. We'd put a property on a page. We'd take 6 pages of advertising. We'd make everything look really, presented in its best possible light. But then in terms of service levels, we employed a chap called, was it Gary Bosworth?
Oh, Gary joined us, who was a junior. Really, really sweet guy. And we decided that what we should do is hand deliver, because obviously you couldn't email anything. So we decided we should hand deliver details. So if you would phone and say, I've seen that property in the newspaper, could you send me the brochure? Rather than put it in the post, we sent Gary out on his moped.
We called him Motor Mouse.
Amazing.
So you'd be on the phone and just put the phone down, there'd be a knock on your door, and Gary would say, hi, I'm from Kelly Estate Agents.
Wow, a courier specifically for doing that.
Little
Here's
things,
the brochure, they were blown away.
Yeah, so little things, but everything again we did was revolved around service. We had a great team there as well. It was fantastic. And then what happened was that we ran it for about 16, 17 months. Oh, prior to that, we were maxed out with our overdraft. So I'd got a good relationship with the bank manager there at the time. And relationships with bank managers then were different to what they are now, right? So let's say we had, I don't know, 30, I can't remember the figures, it's a bit irrelevant, but say it's 20, 30,000 pounds overdraft. After 6 months, I phoned John up and our building came up for sale. And it was a beautiful building next to the Guildhall. And it was, I think it was 200,000 for the freehold, which, today would probably be, I don't know, knocking on towards £1 million. I don't know, 800, it's irrelevant to a degree. But the most important part of the story is that we wanted to buy the building. It'd be an opportunity rather than rent, is what you will want to do. And I phoned up the bank manager and said, well, look, this has come up and I'd like to buy it. And he said, that's great. He said to me, how much can you put down? I'm maxed out on my overdraft. I've got no money. Could you lend me 200,000? 10 days later, the money's in our account. It's a completely different world. I mean, now...
I can't imagine that happening.
It's crazy.
You'd never get it. But that's the way, and in those days, everybody was doing it, a bit stupid really, but self-cert mortgages, everything was a lot easier. When we wanted a mortgage, for example, you'd phone up Baggy Manning, your mate that you play rugby with, or Charlie Barham, and Charlie, I need a mortgage.
Are these real people that you're mentioning as well?
They really, really are. Yeah. And actually, in those days, to be fair, as much as it was all, we worked hard, we played hard, it was a different world.
Yeah, it was.
You know, you work,
so-
the hours are crazy hours, but socially, and of course we were a lot younger, I suppose. So you know, but yeah. So then what happened was we got lucky. I say got lucky. Create your own luck. We were doing very, very well. And at the time, the banks, Halifax, Woolwich, Abbey National, etc. It was called Cornerstone. Were buying estate agencies, and we managed to sell ours in '89, and we did really well with that. And virtually just after we sold it, the market collapsed. So we sold out to Halifax, and we then pivoted. Is that the word they use nowadays? Well, I think that's the word.
Let's stop for a second.
Yeah, sorry.
I want to ask, how old are you at this point?
I would have been early 30s.
Okay.
About 30.
But
About 30, 31.
That for the time,
yes.
maybe it's slightly more common now that people are
At the
selling
time,
businesses. But at the time, that's a huge achievement
Yeah, it was.
to someone in their late 20s, early 30s
Yeah.
to have sold a business
Yeah.
for any amount, but
Yeah.
what seems like a significant amount.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
a good-
yeah, yeah.
So did you give yourself a moment then to kind of have a sense of that achievement, or did the
Not
bottom
long
fall
enough.
out of everything?
Not
Right.
long enough is the answer.
Yeah.
And then we really didn't do a lot. I was still on a contract, or we both with a contract for the Halifax, so we carried on working as employees with them. But after about 6 months or a year, what was crazy about the whole thing, they bought our business, and we had a fantastic brand.
Yeah.
Every thing looked on point. It was all working well. And then they changed it,
Immediately
branded it to
the
Halifax.
Halifax.
Right.
Where we were taking
Halifax
6
Property
pages of
Services.
advertising, they took 2 pages, little pictures. Everything was, why would you buy it?
So they've reverted to type and the way, the status
Yes.
quo,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
So
So
it's
if they
vanilla.
kept the branding,
Yeah, yeah.
potentially...
And things have changed now, because
carried
when
on.
companies buy companies, if the brand's good, they keep the brand but operate it within within the group as a separate brand. But anyway, so then we I don't know, played a bit of golf then. We played a bit of golf for a while
Yeah,
because we
played a bit of
came
golf.
out.
That was quite good. Yeah.
And got itchy feet.
I was going to say, I can't imagine.
No.
You don't strike me as two people that would play golf for any huge period of time before wanting to be
Hold on,
serious.
sorry. Club champion twice at
True, and lady
Park and lady
captain.
captain.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
She's a proper golfer, this
like
one.
that. Just round of applause. Cheers, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, that was 20 years
We can add that in.
30
We
years
can
ago.
add that in.
Yeah.
Basically, what we're going to do, you know, is a bit of that. And also, because the property industry sort of was not on the floor, but it was struggling. Leisure was taking off. I had a very good friend of mine, of ours, that had various bars, snooker clubs and leisure businesses in Northampton. I was strangely enough looking at we were at 10 Pin Bowling. We used to go to 10 Pin Bowling. We thought, well, that seems like quite a cool business.
Yeah, we were addicted to 10 Pin Bowling, which was really... We used to take your parents and Brett, didn't we?
We did. So anyway, it was a business that was taking off. And I thought, well, you know, let's look at the leisure world. He wanted to do something. I wanted to do something. So we pulled our resources. I put money into his bars. We put money into the 10 Pin. We bought a squash club in Kettering in Northamptonshire. And we got consent to turn it into a
10 Pin Bowling
10 Pin
centre.
Bowling centre. So
And this is at a time where 10 pin, because you're saying 10 Pin Bowling now, where there is a 10 Pin Bowling centre or somewhere to
Everywhere.
do
In every
big
town.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
at this time it was really starting to
Yeah, it was just
off.
really
kick
taking
off. Right,
wasn't
okay.
it?
So we set it up, and it was quite a big thing to do. I mean, I think the acquisition of it was about, if I've got it right, the whole thing cost us 1.25 million then to actually
So
buy.
23 lanes. It was a proper 10 Pin Bowling centre with a little fast food place in it and an events room.
Upstairs, we had
Yeah,
little.
it was-
It was fantastic
was
setup,
great.
and we were about to start trading it, and then a company, I think it was called Themes International, came along and made us a bid to buy it with a healthy profit, and I thought, suddenly we've got the Midas touch here, and here we go. And we agreed a sale to them, which was a healthy profit. And we're still carrying on with the building works. Brunswick put all the lanes in, etc. But we agreed heads of agreements with the sale, start what we were going to do. And just before they're about to complete or exchange on it, they went bust. Right, and so we were going to trade it. We carried on trading, and we did very, very well with it for about 18 months. And everything was going well. Bars were going well. Ten-pin bowling was going well. Sue became a 10-pin bowling instructor.
I think that's because I think I asked you as well. Have you still got some skills?
Yes,
with
and
10-pin
we
bowling?
did have a 10-pin bowling night out with the company, with the business. And I said, actually, I'm just going to have to tell you, I was a 10-pin bowling centre teacher.
Yeah.
So
you set the bar quite high. And how did you do?
Really badly.
Okay.
I don't even think I got a strike.
That's okay.
So yeah,
We'll glaze over that.
and they obviously thought I was not telling the truth at all.
Yeah. But this is again. That's a level of commitment, isn't it? To go, I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to start training people.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
And also you worked in the bars as well.
I ran the bars as well, Kelly's bar.
So I mean, Sue was like
on the
everywhere.
door, and there is.
We struggled and struggled and struggled, and we held on, but eventually we couldn't hold it, and we went into receivership with the business.
Yeah,
and that was a really difficult time because we again being young and not. We were very good estate agents, but at 30 years old, being thrown into an arena where you've got quite a lot of money and now you're trying to build up a business, we put a lot of personal guarantees on it. So we ended up losing virtually. It sounds stupid now, but we were unlucky. We virtually lost everything.
Yeah. How does that feel from going to build a business and having sold the estate agency and then to go through that process of having built something and through so many variables? How did that feel at the time? Can you take yourself back to then?
I can tell you exactly when it was. It was, my son's 31 and it was exactly... How long ago is that now? 31 years ago. Well, stupid
31
question.
years ago, it was September.
Yeah, and Sue was in hospital. Just had Joshua. And I remember it coming in, the receivers come in, they said, look, you can work for us for a week or you can go, whatever. And I thought, and this doesn't happen overnight. We're talking about this being
trying to hang on to the business.
You can see the writing on the wall.
This is going on for like 18 months, 2 years, and you just don't know which way to turn eventually. So it's like, it's a bitter relief, right? And I remember driving around that night. I quite like my cars. I'll come back to that story in a minute. But I'm driving around and I'm thinking, cars are going to go, the house is going to go, whatever. It's all going. And I drove around and Sue was in the hospital. That was the most important thing to me, that everything was all right. Got up the next morning. This is how I felt. And I thought, well, that's all over. What are we going to do?
So pragmatism.
It was a bit like that was it. What are we now going to do? What are we going to do?
So instead of going into a hole, which could have happened, and maybe spiralling slightly, and a feeling of hopelessness at that stage.
I felt like it for about 4 hours when I was driving around, but after that, I thought.
But also, we've been trying to have a child for years, probably 5 years.
Yeah.
And been very obviously unsuccessful. And then suddenly there we were. We'd got this baby.
Yeah.
And so as far as I was concerned, that for me was just all that was important.
Well, I was going to ask how you felt at that time.
I remember absolutely fine about it.
She's a girl.
No, absolutely. Well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
We were very lucky that we didn't lose the house.
No.
So I suppose stability where we lived was a massive thing. If you don't lose
You've still got a home at the end of the day.
That makes a big difference. But it was get on with it. What are we going to do? We will be okay, is what I always think.
But you understand that that's a really lovely trait to have, that mindset, because not everyone would be able to have that. Is that something that you've had throughout your life, Sue?
I do think that I think I'm fairly stoic about stuff that throws things at you. You've got to get on with it, haven't you? You really have.
It's a huge hit to take. I'm thinking as well, through the changes you go as, a new mum, still in the hospital, going through that, because that's a huge impact and change to go through as well. But still to have that mentality, I think is incredible.
Yeah, and I think you surround yourself with good friends and family is really important to us.
Yeah.
So you've always got support network in that respect.
Yeah.
But you don't have a choice. So what?
So it sounds like you were ahead of the curve from Tony, really. You get that news, you're like, okay, we'll just make it work.
Yeah, okay.
It took you 4 hours, Tony. Come on, get on the same page. But 4 hours later, ish,
Yes.
you were thinking, what happens next?
Yeah.
So tell us what happens
that bit's
next.
a bit of a bizarre story.
You're wondering how you're going to put this, aren't you?
I'm going to say as it is, and then you can
Just put it how you want to put
I don't
it.
know whether this is going to come out well or
Just before we go into it, I honestly do not think, because we're talking about poker now, aren't
Yes.
we?
Yeah.
I personally do not think that it puts you in a negative light whatsoever.
No. I'm not unduly worried about it.
Okay.
So when we lose 10 instructions tomorrow, when you put it out right,
Yeah, we get literally.
we're
It's a
losing
7-minute
agents.
podcast and an hour and a half
Okay.
recording.
You're a gambler.
Okay, so what happens?
So the first thing is we obviously lose our cars, and I'm digressing a bit, but
Paint a picture for me.
It's an important picture. We have some supercars.
Sounds a bit pathetic, doesn't it? We lost our cars.
But I like my cars, and we had some nice sports cars. But I phoned a mate of mine called Keith Brandt that was always supplied cars. And I said, Keith, I'm looking to get a new car. He says, bearing in mind that I've had some nice bits of... He says, what do you want? I said, well, I've got about £1,000 to buy a car.
So not the usual budget, it's safe to say, that you would call Keith up and say, right.
This is the start of our next part of our journey.
Okay, yeah.
And so he managed to find us a white Mercedes estate car with about 150,000 miles on the clock.
Sounds reliable.
I bought it. So at least we had something to drive around. I think I picked you up in the hospital for me next day.
Lovely, yeah.
I won't tell you, the other car was whatever it was. And then, anyway, so this is the start of a journey.
But at least we had a car.
Yes. And then Sue came home and we were sitting in the kitchen and Josh is
Gurgling
away at like 3 days old or 4 days old or whatever it is. And I said, it was a question of what we're going to do next. This is a bit balmy. And I had about £10,000 behind us. And there was a poker game in London. And I'd been brought up on cards all my life. My mother, my father, we used to play lots of games together. And then mates of mine, I used to play stud with him in the basement of his kitchen. Our mates, wasn't it? When we used to go to a bottle like this with loads of coins in it and played for tuppence halfpenny and a penny, but it was great fun. And I started playing tournaments and bits and bobs. And then there was a game in London that I heard about, and there was a lot of wealthy people that were playing the game but weren't particularly good, but and I decided that I'd go and play poker.
There you go. Cut.
And then, I hate to talk figures, but I think if we're talking about poker, it's part and parcel of the game. And I think the very first day that I went down and everybody got several £1,000s at the table, and I'd got my £1,000, and I managed to turn that into £10,000, which was remarkable. And this went on for a period of about 3 months, and I accumulated a lot of money over that period of time, probably knocking on 100 grand or something over a 3-month period. And I played poker then for 5 years, 4 years, something like that.
It's such a throwaway statement when you say it like that. Then I played poker for 4 or 5 years.
Went on the European tour.
It's not like
basically.
that. I mean, there's a lot of unsociable hours, and players come and go, and games come and go, and it's a changed world now. I mean, the poker world's a completely different world today to what it was in the 90s.
But how do you acclimatise, both of you? So I'm going to ask you as well. How do you acclimatise from going into like your more of a traditional business and operating that, managing that, to now you are, and what do you tell friends and family at the time? I'm playing poker. Yeah,
and it was a lifestyle. I mean, the thing is, to be honest with you, even then it was a single man's game. Understood. Or business. If you're going to treat it properly, it's not ideal having, a baby and a wife and etc. and responsibilities.
It's not conducive to keeping
Not
those
really.
and it's
plates
and
spinning.
eventually it took its toll. Which it's bound to.
So
but at the time, I was in. There was that amount of money, and you were confident about what you were doing. I suppose I was a bit gung ho and said, well, "I think we'll be okay. Off you go."
Yeah.
Um,
But look, it gave us a good lifestyle.
It literally paid off, didn't it?
Yeah.
Easy for me to sit here as someone that's played maybe 5 games of poker in my life and have no clue, and thinking how I would never trust me with a tenner, let alone what you've got left. But for you to have gone and done that, first off, it's confidence. Second, for you to have in Tony as well, to have taken that pot of money and then gone and done it. But that's
the biggest problem is the hours that you go, because there are certain games that take off with different players that are more, I suppose, casual players that come in later that, you'd probably sit at a table and there'd probably end up being 6 pros and 3 casual players, and, and they don't care. They've got so much money, it makes no difference to them whatsoever. It doesn't. It's just a punt for them. So you had to be there late. You couldn't necessarily. You might get there at 1 o'clock, but the game might not start kicking off till 10 o'clock. And it was a real weird world, right? But it did provide us a lifestyle and a living. But obviously we had our daughter, Amelia, a few years later,
4.5 years
and
later,
then putting that all into a pot, it became difficult to keep everything together in that sense.
We talk a lot about careers on the podcast, ironically.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone signposts poker player as a career. You have to have a talent for that, don't you? You have to have an innate ability to go and do this.
I've always loved it. Things also, you play tournaments as well, so it's not just cash games. There's tournaments you play in. It's not such a big entry to enter those, and the prize funds come. Some of the, a couple of them. I think. For a £1,000 entry, you can win 40 or 50. In those days, 40, 50. Nowadays, the prize funds are like, hundreds of thousands of pounds. But in those days, again, I managed to secure a couple of decent wins in those. And it was a relatively inexpensive way of doing well and earning a substantial amount of money without too much exposure initially.
So we're talking about quite a few evolutions already throughout the time since you've been together as well. Estate agency, then we've gone into leisure, and now we've gone into professional poker playing. It's quite an interesting CV.
Yes.
how did it
diverse?
Yeah, really diverse. How did it come to a head, Sue? Like where did the transition from poker playing to then the opportunity in Leigh come from? Because at this point, still in Northampton.
Yes, so we're still in Northampton.
But bring us into Leigh.
So,
if you can help us land in Leigh.
So we so what happened? You came out of the poker world.
Yeah, I think it was a change of direction for me. We got to do something. And what do I know best? What do we know best? And it was a question of then what the next steps would be. You carry on.
So we were approached by, or Tony was approached by a guy.
I was doing some consultancy work.
To do some consultancy
so there was
work.
a company called Move With Us based in St Ives. So I decided, I'm going to go back into agency. Whatever form of agency that will be, it's what I love, it's what I know, it's what I enjoy. And going back to, sticking to what you know, when we look at what the journey's been from the estate agency to the leisure, making money, losing money. And, from a business point of view, I thought I had the Midas touch.
Right.
But really, to be fair, we were very good estate agents. We got lucky. We were in the right place at the right time with the banks acquiring. So that was the good part of it. But the most important thing is, I think I'm a good estate agent. I love marketing, all the aspects. I thought, now let's get serious and get back into it. And there was a company called Move With Us based in St Ives. They networked 1,200 offices throughout the UK. And initially I went back in a consultancy capacity. So there'd be 1 or 2 agents or 3 agents that I worked for in Northamptonshire, Peterborough, Oxfordshire. And I had a contract. So I'd go in for 6 months. I think one of them in Peterborough was for 12 months. And so that's what I did. And then I got approached to come down here about just over 20 years ago There's another company here. The guy that owns it's a really good friend of ours, and I worked with them as a consultant at that time. It'd be a good idea for you to take over on that bit and say what happened with coming down here.
Yeah, so Tony was offered the job. We came down for an interview, and obviously I said, well, we're not going to move to Essex. We're very happy in Northampton. We've got all my friends there. I've got my mum, my sister. Why would we move to Essex? He said, well, look, let's just go and see them. Let's just drive down, go and see them. Arrived in Rayleigh.
Yeah.
And met the guys, and they're very pleasant, super guys, got on really well. But I sort of thought, I don't see myself here really. Northamptonshire, beautiful countryside.
And we've been there all our lives.
Been there forever.
But you've got your tribe there as well.
Yeah, all our best mates, friends, family, everything.
Early 40s.
Yeah.
Why would you move? Anyway, so we had we met Anthony, and everything was, we got on really
Great
well.
guy, yeah.
Brought us into Leigh-on-Sea, so you sort of like ears picked up a little bit and looked at it and took us down to Old Leigh. Thought, yeah, it's quite cute here actually.
Growing on you a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. So had a pizza. Anyway, so we go home and I said, well, forget it. You're absolutely not moving. Amelia's really happy in school. So is Joshua. This is not what we're going to do. So just tell him no.
Yeah.
So you got a hold of him, didn't you? And said, look, I'm really sorry. Great to meet you, but absolutely won't be joining you. So Sue doesn't want to come down, and it's not for me. Thanks very much. That's the end of the conversation. I think that was on the Monday.
Yeah.
By the Friday, he'd offered like a really super duper package. We'll give you an apartment down in Leigh. Sue can come whenever she wants to, and da da da. So we sort of checked.
So basically,
6 months. Let's just do it for 6 months. So I said, well, actually, that gets me rid of you for 6 months. You can go live in Essex for 6 months. But anyway, we commuted really. So Tony would come down in the week. I would come back I would come down at the weekend, or he would come home at the weekend, and we just sort of developed.
Yeah. And you were coming down more often.
Here. I was coming here more than he was coming home at the weekends.
And we had a lovely little flat on the seafront.
It was great. Met some super guys.
Yeah,
We got on really well with Anthony, and it's just it felt like a transition.
I think that was the word that we used when we discussed this prior to this conversation. Is that transition? Because if it's cut and shut. From one day you're here and the next week you've got lifted your entire life and gone somewhere else.
Too much.
When it's blended like that,
exactly
you can start seeing yourself in that way. And maybe the psychology of that is something you think about now when people are relocating to Leigh, because you've got empathy.
You can feel it and you understand it.
So it chipped away at you slowly.
So it chipped away really slowly. And then Darren had been to value a property in Leigh to rent.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful house called Prospect House. So it's not coming on the market, but they want to rent it. They want to move out to Canewdon. And, do you want to go and it'll get Sue here. Do you want to go and view it? So we viewed it. Beautiful house, met the owners who are now really dear friends of ours. And arrived in this house. Well, it just blew me away. It was amazing. Amazing sea views. And so we sort of said, oh my God, should we just bite the bullet and do it?
I can imagine as viewers, and I mean this respectfully, as you two viewing a house, it must be a nightmare. Just because you're so discerning, you've been doing it for a long time, you know what to look for.
When you walked in the door,
it's funny actually because Addie, who's a really close friend of mine now, who lived there with her husband, she was really nervous about showing us around. So it's funny you should say that. So she'd got out the china and was like tea, and I was thinking, oh my God, this family are perfect.
This is funny.
We're not going to we just won't survive here because we're bonkers and everything that we do is always messy and in uproar. So
was it a heart decision?
It was,
because this is your life, this is your family, this is the big step.
Do you mean
forward.
the house, or do you mean
the house? I guess the whole thing. But it was when you're walking in, because again, I'm just trying to think of this now from your perspective as people that have shown houses and sold houses, and you walk in and you still have that emotive response to a house.
Yeah.
It's a must-live-in house. What it was just, it backs on to the
estuary,
near the estuary.
Yeah.
Never had a swimming pool, got a swimming pool to go. That wasn't most important. But the whole thing, the feel of it, Addie and John, the kids, our kids, it was just like it's almost like it sounded a bit meant to be a bit, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
But that's heart-led, isn't it? That's like an emotive thing, for sure.
And which is usually how people go into purchasing a house. You walk in the door and something gets you.
Which I want to talk about in a few questions' time, because that emotive response to buying houses, I think, is what makes it so, stressful.
Yes.
Such an emotional roller coaster.
Emotional.
You know, all of these things.
Completely.
But we'll talk about that. But interesting from two people that have been selling property for that long to still know that you get, you're not so disparate from it that you can actually think it's still an intangible sense that I need to live here.
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
It wasn't just the house, it was the environment. The other important thing is we're talking about the house. But Leigh's got its own
charm,
charm. It's just when I first came here and I was on my own. When you was, I'd probably go, I don't know, in those days in the sandbar or going to a restaurant, and it's like a village in a town or a town in the village. It feels that way. So I think the one thing that attracted us to it as well.
Yes, it felt like Northampton 20 years before.
Yeah, and the people.
Yeah.
It's just got a really. We noticed how friendly it was, didn't we? Really, Northampton is a friendly environment, but this was like on another level.
We'd already met people and created
with the coffee shops and quirky people,
life.
Different people, business, all types of people. And also I think the average age was a lot. When we were going out in those days into Leigh,
our age group, wasn't it?
Yeah. So,
and also the kids were of an age where we could move them.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So
how old were they at that?
So Amelia was coming up to 7.
Yeah.
Right.
And Josh was 11.
Yeah.
So he was either going to go to his next stage of his schooling.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got the grammar school here.
Yeah,
so the grammar school was a big thing.
So that was a massive thing.
If you can get in, obviously, one of ours, Josh went to it and Amelia didn't, but she's done very well anyway. But it was an attraction for him, and obviously, it was another. It wasn't the main factor, but it
was
another consideration that made that decision.
We went to school, and the headmaster then was Andrew Baker. He's like, Mark, you either loved him or hated him, but we thought he was great.
Isn't that the same with all teachers, though?
Yes, that is true. Actually,
depending on who you are.
Certain teachers you adore,
and that developed really well. Like with our son was into
music and theatre,
and all that, which we developed very well at the school. And Amelia was very happy at her little
North Street.
It's like a
village school,
type school. So everything fell into place.
It was gelled.
So you brought us to Leigh now, and we could talk about what happened in Leigh to then take you up to
where we
founding
are.
Home.
Yes.
Yeah. We can do that.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go now to talk about Home and why you set it up. So you've been running 17 years now?
Yes, 17 years in September.
So what fundamentally happened? So going from consultancy and working with my actually very close friend, we then came into the next property, which was 2008. The market collapsed, and we were doing very well, but everything went wrong. And as much as I was very much involved in the company, we're going to get shares in the company, it put the owner in a very difficult position because he had to then look at his costs, etc. And basically we ended up down here virtually without a job. At that point, it's a question, they couldn't pay me because I was a heavy hitter.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, they're paying for a specialist set of skills, aren't they, at the end of the day? And you're adding value to the company.
So we're on another roller coaster ride.
How
fresh has the transition been? How many years are you here now?
That's a good question. I would have said it's about 3 years.
It's about 2008.
It's still quite fresh.
Yeah,
it's
about,
you're here long enough to
I want to go home.
Yeah, but you're here long enough to put roots in, but you're still, it's still early days.
Yeah, well, it's unsettling, isn't it?
And then a friend of ours who was in insurance said, if you fancy opening your own business, I'd be happy to come in with you, because the cost of opening a business then is different to what it was when I opened for £30,000 in 1987. And I hadn't quite got that money around me, so we basically, when I say we formed a business with him, and he was in insurance but wanted to be an estate agent. Came out with me a few times and got involved, but I don't think he realised how hard it was. But got fortunate because he managed to sell his business, and then we agreed after about 18 months of opening our business, which was 2009, that we would buy him out. So we were fortunate enough that we managed to raise money to buy him out, and that's really when our journey really started, which would be 2010. 2009 is when we opened it, but when we actually acquired the business ourselves, 2010.
Is there any part of you with kind of ghosts of the past on your shoulder at any part of this going like, how do you feel now as a business owner again for the third time? Is there any
I tell you the answer to the question is more risk adverse. So where you'd say years ago, like, well, we'd do this, we'd do that, we'd invest in 6 offices or 5 offices, quite happy with what we've achieved. It's the security now. I'm 69, going on 70, and it's a question now that, it's really important that we have our house, that we've got reasonable financial security. And I think that's an important part of the jigsaw. But equally, it's a competitive world.
Yeah.
And the last 3 or 4 years, obviously, it's enormous change. And it's staying one step ahead. And you've done a podcast recently with Lucy O'Brien from Socialist.
Yeah.
And she's an incredibly important part of even though she started work with me, whatever many years ago, she's got her own business and doing fantastically well. But we work together, and there's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Synergy with us that creates our brand.
Yes, yeah.
With Lucy, with Socialist, with the things that we do. So that's an important part of it.
Well, you've seen the house buying and the house selling process change so much, I would imagine, from the 80s when you started in it to now. Marketing is a big part of that.
Marketing,
in terms of marketing,
I think one thing that I've learned a lot with the business is, and this does you really good as an estate agent, is when you move house and you know what the experience is, you know what the anxiety is, when you're waiting for times and chains to go through, which is what suitors all the time. You have more understanding. You really do have empathy with people. And I think that as you get older as well, you really start to feel a lot. You always do, but I'm saying that because you've experienced all these things, I don't think as many situations come up now
that you might not have gone through yourself.
It doesn't matter what it's like. You can understand the difficulties sometimes.
My experience with that, again, in recruitment, I started in recruitment at 25, pre-kids, didn't really have, I had life experience, but not as much as I do now.
Yeah.
The level of conversation, the depth of conversation, the depth of connection I have now with the people I am placing in jobs.
Of course, it's so
at 25, if someone said to me, what's the pension contribution?
Yeah.
I'd look around the room like, why are you asking about a pension contribution?
Yeah.
But as people get older, and I am now at an age where I wish I'd been thinking about my pension contribution in my mid-20s, I can empathise. That's just one example. Post-kids, completely different conversation. Before you have kids, you cannot get on the same level and understand the same amount. So life experience does give you a more holistic way of being able to connect. And I imagine when you are... we're saying selling houses, but it's so much more than that. You're such a pivotal point in someone's whole change of their life.
It's just such a huge journey.
So the question I'm going to ask you now, I'll say it as a statement, and you can tell me if you agree with it or not. But what makes the house buying process so painful? And I am going to say painful because my experience has been painful, but it could be emotive. It could be an emotional roller coaster. I'm using the word painful because it's my lived experience.
Well, I'm quite biased because I'm doing the process. I'm working through the process with buyers and sellers every day on a day-to-day basis. I think that compliance has got really difficult. That people don't want, like, surveyors, solicitors. It's hard now to be responsible for those boxes that you're ticking. So rather than years ago, you'd phone a surveyor and say, "Oh, can you have a quick look around that house for me?" He'd say, "Oh, it's fine. There's a bit of damp in the roof, but don't worry about it. You can get the mortgage offer anyway." That just doesn't happen now for obvious reasons. Nobody wants to be sued. And the conveyancing, the way that the conveyancing process works is the same as it was all those years ago, when people would just phone somebody and say, it's absolutely fine. The bank manager would phone, yeah, I'll get the mortgage offer out tomorrow. Let's get it exchanged. So that process would probably take 12 weeks, 8 weeks. Because they're all talking.
Most sales would exchange within
you're picking the phone up.
8 weeks.
8 weeks. Yeah, because you're having conversations. Can you sort that out for me? Yes, I can. Now, it's absolutely not the case. People want to email. They don't want to talk on the telephone, so you can't get a direct answer. Nobody wants to be responsible, pass it over to the surveyor passes it over to the contractor, and the solicitors want to tick all the right boxes. And I think the process has just become really long and drawn out, and it's laborious and it's difficult. And yet the process hasn't actually changed.
To the extent the average transaction now 4 to 5 months.
Wow.
As opposed to
8 weeks.
But it used to be,
take.
what it used to be was like, normally it'd be 6 to 8 weeks to exchange, and then 4 weeks, and then you have completion within 28 days. So generally speaking, it was something like 2 to 3 months. Now it's sort of 4 months and 5 months towards completion on average. It's almost...
And during that period, you literally don't know if you are going to be moving to the house of your dreams. And it is so emotional, and, you know...
And chains, of course.
And the chains are involved.
You know. Again, we're back to that word variables again, aren't they? Stuff outside of your control.
And you can get so close. You're right up to exchange of contract. You've almost booked your removals. The chain falls through at the bottom. You are literally back to square one. And, you know...
Doesn't that give you then as
really tough.
You're heading up sales progression.
Yeah.
What an impossible job. But I imagine when it goes right, when you complete...
Yeah.
Oh, what a feeling.
But what is quite interesting is that it can go wrong, and it's very emotional. People are shouting and screaming down the phone. It's placating people all of the time because you understand the journey. Yeah. But there's only so much you can facilitate as the agent. You're a messenger, really. You're not making anything actually work. The lawyers are. But you get to a point where you think, oh my gosh, this is never going to go through. When it goes through, everything, I mean, within you exchange contracts, everybody's forgotten.
Yeah.
Everybody's forgotten about all
that's
the crap
a funny thing. If you've got the nice bit at the end, which is you get your key, you walk into your home, you can just completely glaze over the fact that actually to get there has been
you do forget the pain,
journey.
A bit like probably giving birth.
Well, so I've heard.
You forget the pain for the pleasure that's
the nice bit at the end makes you think about it.
And that's why, you know, when people come into the office and we give them their keys and bottle of wine and celebrate, and it is we try and, you know, make it a celebration.
Well, you know, so many things out your hands. Like, for example, you could have a salesman going through, it's going 4 months, 5 months, you're on the brink of exchange, and as tragic as it may be, somebody passed away, now you probate. Now that can take 5 months.
Yeah.
And then where do you go from there? You know, unless somebody moves out or does something, you're trying to hold
so many variables.
You know, it is.
And you're not committed until exchange.
I mean, whether you all feel in this country they should change the process. I mean, we know what it's like in Scotland. You have to exchange with a certain period of time and abroad. But there is a problem with that because most people can't get their hands on the money till their own sale goes through. So it's a difficult process, but certainly something needs to be done somewhere.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. If you could change one thing about the process, what would that be?
I think getting commitment really early days and maybe having a survey carried out by the vendor.
Right.
So when you walk in and you view that property, the vendor says, here's the survey that we've had by an RICS or a building survey. This should appease you and explain if there's any issues, or because obviously we sell a lot of old houses in Leigh.
Of course, yeah.
So I think that would help people.
And there needs to be a think tank, you know, on another level on how to simplify this process, because at the moment that is the fundamental biggest problem, is the conveyancing and the whole process. There needs to be a way it can be more streamlined.
Yeah, but that's really interesting to hear from people with so many years and so much credibility in this space to know that there is something.
Well, it's got worse, not better.
Yeah,
which is
you know, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I have to commend you, because I've had various experiences with various estate agents over the years in an attempt to sell my house as well, and I think it's the ones that deal with it with that level of empathy are the ones where you feel like you want to leave the door open and have that relationship moving forward.
Yeah.
I think it's such an impossible job in the most respectful way.
Yeah.
Because you are, in a lot of ways, you're communicating between parties.
Yeah, and also this is the point that I can be told one thing by a lawyer, solicitor, or an agent at the top of the chain. You pass it down, and actually a day later, well, that actually didn't happen, or that was 3 days ago, or so it's really difficult to pass on accurate information.
Yeah, you just want to connect with someone, so they feel like you are dealing with them on a level with respect and trust.
Trying to help and give them as much information.
But I think that starts from the beginning of the process. You know, when we go out to value properties and we talk to people, we want to know what are they about? What are they doing? It's not sometimes it's not just the property. It's a question of getting to know them, and also in terms of the valuation. It's a hard process because everybody wants to get the best price they can. Of
course, yeah.
And our job is to make sure that when we value it, trying with that in mind to try and get the best price. There are some clients that expectations are incredibly high, so you have to work with them and see what happens. There's others that are realistic, but there's a balancing act with it all. And, from an estate agent's point of view, you want to gain the instruction. Your job is to get the best price for the client. They can be ambitious with the price, but you've got to be very careful how you deal with it and monitor it.
Of course.
And if somebody wants to put their house on, let's say we valued, I don't know, 700, they want to put it on 750. And their motive is because they need to acquire that, and everybody wants to get the best they can, we'll have a go. But we make it very clear early days, we've given them the figure, and then at that point in time, we'll be saying, we'll monitor it very carefully for 2 weeks and see where it goes. And after that period of time, we'll judge the response. And normally, within a few...
That comes with experience as well, doesn't it? To know that just saying yes is not the way to do it.
It's a really important thing that the guys, all our valuers are trained in that respect. And every morning that we get together, we have a morning meeting, quite a while actually, it probably lasts about 30-40 minutes, where we go through what we've been out to see the day before, what we're going out to see this day. We have all the notes on the people, what they're doing, and also we'll have a conversation about the prices, even all the values of experience, so that we have a general...
It's a sanity check, isn't it? A sense check almost.
Absolutely.
The crazy thing about our business, is where it gets really interesting as well, is there are certain properties out there that probably got, I don't know, fantastic sea views, they've put a devolved kitchen, they've done certain things, where the norm it might be, say, I don't know, £1 million, but this might be 1.1, 1.2, but you can take a chance and have a go, and there are people that will buy it because they will pay a premium because of what it is and where it is. And that our art, and it's a thing that, as an estate agent, and I've got friends of mine that are out estate agents now, Neil, that used to work for us, was our main value, very good friend of ours, lives in Italy. He still knows his price. It's almost like before, when we go round to houses, you shouldn't have preconceived ideas, but we've got so much knowledge, all of us, on properties, on real estate and Leigh, etc., that you know within a margin, roughly where you are. But there are certain things that even we surprise ourselves with. So the point is that we'd always say to people, it depends on what your expectation. We're always very happy to have a go, but the most important thing is an agent can do is monitor it and speak to people. If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, we're not going to bury our head in the sand.
You've got to manage expectations, and I guess that's from the day you turn up at a house or a property.
That's really important. And what we do is in the meeting, we'll expect. We have a customer care lady, Maria, that works with us, so she backs up the guys. So she's monitoring every day she's in there, what's going on with that property, are we getting interest? She's backing up the guys in communication. Obviously, the valuers that have been out there, the people that people put their trust in because they've built that relationship. So it's a question of blending that into the mix on how we look after people. So it's quite a lot of things that go on there behind the scenes.
It doesn't sound that simple.
No, there's a lot more to it, and it's how you monitor that, and how Amy, our manager, is very good at controlling that with the staff. And it's really important that you have a definitely.
People just want to know what's going on, don't they?
And then you've got to blend that with everything else.
Yeah, even if knowing what is going on is someone saying, I don't know what's going on, it's actually, that's important. There's a value in that for someone that you trust to say, even I at this stage
we
have no idea what's
are.
going on. That's an update that has value.
And I think it's fair to say that probably in 90-95% of cases, there's the odd one that might slip through the net where perhaps we had one recently where where the clients turned around and said, well, I had emails from you, but one of the valuers didn't pick up the phone and speak to me. And we take it on board. You're absolutely right. We need to look at that, and that's a conversation we have in the meeting. And then this week we've had that conversation. Look, guys, you need to phone your vendors every week after you've been out to see them. And as much as we've got customer support there, it's about picking up the phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest problem we've got in this world is the way it's all becoming automated in terms of emails.
Yeah.
You know, AI, etc. All great. Even, I mean, I'm getting calls now. I don't know about you, 3 times a week. Hello, is that Anthony Kelly? Oh yes, hello. This is your personal AI assistant. Have you had these calls or not?
I've had a couple of calls that have disclaimed that they are AI before
and I'm just
they
I can't talk because I don't.
That's because you're on AI continually.
No. But what I'm trying to say is the danger with our industry, and I think we've had to pull back. Up until about a year, 18 months ago, it's becoming very automated. People prefer emails. People, well, I'm not sure if they do. I think it's nothing better than picking up the phone and speaking to somebody. And we're doing it more. We've done it all the time, but we're actually going further and further. Because I think you want to speak to the person and have a chat with them about what's going on.
You can grasp what people are feeling when you're talking to them.
You can,
And it's ever so easy on an email just to push it out and just say, that's contact.
Well, its tone is so open to interpretation as well when you are reading something that's written. So it could be a message that comes across blunt or it comes across nonchalant. If the tone
so that's
that it's
not
said
an
is very
intentional
different.
blunt email, but you can just read it that way or message or what's.
And I think if you know, we're really hard. Not really. We encourage our reviews, and then lately we've had. You know, we're working on Google reviews, and it's really lovely. There's nothing better as a business owner to get a good review, and people say such wonderful things about the staff from the beginning to the end, and you only got to go online and read them.
That's the feedback, isn't it? We all want a bit of
Yeah.
I don't know if you would describe it as such, but I talk about the word validation a lot. When you're building something, a little bit of validation goes a long way, and to know that the people you've entrusted to represent you are doing a good job as well.
Honestly, we have the most fantastic team, and when they wrote in about Chloe, Kieran, Nathan. Elliot, I'm not going to leave anybody out.
Yeah, you're not going to offend anyone.
Sue, on the radio. But it's so nice to hear those comments. And what is lovely as well, when they talk about the process. Oh, it was great from the moment your valuer came out, to the pictures we did, the social media, to the chain, which was complicated, but you got it through. All of that process, it's not...
That means the puzzle pieces have all gone together, doesn't it?
What does an estate agent do for their money? That's what they do.
Well, I'm going to touch upon that point just quickly then, because there is a stigma and a stereotype that exactly that. Maybe people listening, maybe people have had experiences with estate agents. What are you doing for your money? Well, you've just given this whole conversation has been an insight into what you're doing.
I think it's changed an awful lot. I mean, we've become film producers, for example, with videos and drones. We've got a whole sales progression department team. You know, it's
years ago, in 1980, whatever it was. You know, I'd go out and value the house. I'd do the company viewing, then I would progress the sale. Yeah. So you did the whole job yourself, and now we think that everybody's really got all this luxury around them, that they've got someone doing social media, taking all the photos, we've got a sales progression department, social liaison, customer liaison person.
Valuers.
So
company viewers.
It's changed a lot, but I think it's changed for the right reasons.
So let me ask you this then, 17 years of home, if you had to start again now, what would you change? What would you do differently?
From the beginning, you mean?
No, just home.
I think...
You can say nothing.
No. I'm trying to think. I think what's changed within the industry and what's changing is the way we are as individuals taking on board what people's requirements are, what the touch points are, the sensitivity. You know, I think there's a lot more empathy involved nowadays. I really feel that we're really getting to, and that may be because of the way we've developed the business with our personal coaching and things like that. So I think that how it would change is
our empathy with.
Yeah, I think it's much more personalised. It sounds crazy because we've gone from a period where when we started the game, right, when I started in estate agency, it was very personal, building up relationships, getting to know people, to then this transition where it's all about sales and take-ons and volumes and things like that. We're still about that, but I think the way we've broken it down now is more. It's more human.
Yeah,
I love that.
From our business,
I think it's more personal,
from our
isn't
point
it?
of view, it's really
Yeah.
you know, and I think that's where we will flourish,
Yeah.
right, going forward, if we stay in touch with that element.
Well, this is part of the reason I do the podcast, and part of the reason I invite people like yourself on to sit that are running businesses, but
Yeah.
people don't always get to see.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
actually get in front of a camera, behind a mic, and have conversations like this,
Yeah.
I think it allows people to connect with you and
Yeah.
what you're doing on a human
Yeah.
level. And
Yeah.
you talked about AI earlier.
Yeah.
We're in a world where so much of what you see, you're
Yeah.
going to be looking through a bit of a filter of cynicism or skepticism and thinking, is that real?
Yes.
Are we connecting on that level now?
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
human connection, there's
really
an almost,
important.
and this is a big word, but there's almost a revolution to the point where we just want to connect
Yeah.
on a human
Yes.
level now.
Yeah.
And if you look abroad, if you look at the way agencies done, for example, in I don't know Spain, probably, but everything's on a personal base. It's very, very the individual gets to know the applicant.
You referenced your bank manager's name, John.
John Lawrence.
Yeah.
There you
his
go.
name
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Which, however many years ago that was now, in the
Yeah.
80s, you
Yeah.
can still reference your bank manager's
Hey,
name.
John.
Came to our wedding, you know, his mates have all those. Yeah, I think I've forgotten my current bank manager's name.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, don't even
Yeah.
look at me. I've got
And
no
and
idea.
I'm
No,
serious
of
about that. I
course.
mean,
Yeah,
we,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
we, you know,
Yeah,
it's
that's
it's
nuts, isn't it?
another story.
How crazy is that?
But all of our and hopefully,
Christian.
Christian Room is fantastic. But hopefully,
in case he watches.
we'll all come back to that way at
Yeah.
some point. It'd
Yeah.
be nice to think we would.
I think there's a bit of a resurgence in that. People just
Yeah.
wanting to connect on a
Yeah.
human level
Yeah.
and even sit in a room in a real life environment and have a conversation or listen to people have a
Yes.
conversation
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever that looks like. So
Yeah.
I did think it was interesting though, because you've been in this game for such a long time.
Yeah.
Even with this iteration, but it sounds like you are very much open to evolving as time goes on.
We're still learning.
You
I mean,
learn.
we're
Yeah.
still
Which
learning. I
is
mean,
amazing.
you know, it's just what I've witnessed, particularly over the last 2 or 3 years. And again, you know, say we have a personal business coach who's nothing like you think a business coach is. It's quite alternative, and it's opened my eyes.
Yeah.
You know, it's I think when I say it's transformed the business, it's transformed the way we interact with our staff. I think you could speak to any of our guys in the office, and we can feel great energy, great vibes, good atmosphere. I'm not just saying it. They'll probably tell me something else tomorrow. I don't know, but you know, and I think to me or to us, that is one thing that I've learned. We've learned a lot in the last 12 months, 18 months, and I think that's really important for the business to go forward.
Yeah, I think it's how our business will evolve.
And we still speak,
Yeah,
don't we?
just.
Right, we've got 2 more questions and then we've got the closing tradition. So I'm going to ask Sue, I'm going to ask you first. What's one piece of advice you'd give to a buyer?
I think you do have to go with your heart, because I think that will take you anyway. But good broker, really important. Even if you think that who you've got is great, make sure you get loads of quotes on the finance side. And good lawyer, usually a local lawyer, not most online lawyers. I mean, we're actually using one company that is very, very good at the moment online. But I think a lawyer that you can talk to on the telephone, that you're not just emailing.
Okay. Again, that human connection.
Yeah.
I guess knowledge
I
of the,
think it's
of the
really
geography, the
important
location.
that goes through your paperwork with you. Mostly you just get sent your paperwork that you read through an email or you print it out, and it's a minefield. But I think those things are really important.
Okay. Tony, this one's for you. What's one piece of advice you'd give to a seller?
I think just touching on that point, right, which is important, is that, and it relates to whether you're selling and buying, is that a lot of people think, well, I've got to find a house. I've got to find somewhere to move to first before I do something of mine. And generally speaking, it's the chronological sequence of events that are important. So it's, from my experience, I don't really look at buying property myself whenever we've moved until I've got a buyer. I might look casually, I might have a little look around to see what's out there, but I don't want to get too involved, because the moment you get too involved in buying something, you're under pressure, you've got to sell yours, you've got time constraints. So I certainly thinking, if I'm speaking to a vendor that's selling and they're looking to buy, it sometimes sounds like we're trying to get the house on and get it on for our gains so that we've got the instruction. But really speaking, to get the best possible price, right, you need to give yourself a bit of time, and not to put yourself in pressure on the one that you want to buy. You need to secure yourself with a good buyer. And you never know who the buyer's going to be. There might be a chain involved. It might be somebody, if you're lucky, that's got cash and ready and rented. But it's all a journey. It's all a jigsaw. And it's how you piece that jigsaw together from day one. So I think that's an important aspect of the process. I think my word of advice to vendors is, do your homework yourself. Obviously, if it was me, I'd get 2 or 3 valuations to get a feel for, you're not going to just listen to the first person that comes in the door. I'll listen to what they've got to say. I think we have to listen to what people's expectations are, with us getting an understanding of their scenario. And then I think work with the agent on where you pitch it, the price. The price is very, very important. Again, you want to get as much as you can, but you don't want to kill it. So it's a balancing act, and it's finding that fine line. In terms of the property, try and get it on to present the best you can. There are certain properties where I go around where people say, "Oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this." The house is probably needs a renovation, or needs not just some paint chucking on the wall.
Tarting up.
And sometimes you're better off leaving it. You're better off just saying, look, if you did it up, it's probably worth, I don't know, 600,000. As it stands, you might get 550, 575, but it's going to cost you 30, 40,000 pounds to get there, and it's going to take you months. So there's if it's little things that are important, where it is a bit of paint and it needs a bit of presentation, and obviously do it. If there's any issues with the house, try and get them resolved if you can. If there's problems, there's problems with the roof, and don't try and hide anything. Things like structural, if there's historical structural problems, tell them.
Always comes out.
Because most things
and
are monitored.
you have to now anyway.
You have to be transparent.
Yeah.
Don't try and hide things. But I think the vendors do need to take the advice of the agent. They really, really do. And again, it's the vendor's expectations in timescales that dictates where we go with it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. We have a closing tradition on the podcast. I don't know if you've... you look at each other.
Can I kiss her?
Yeah. That's not the closing tradition.
That would be first, anyway.
It's a question that my mum sends in. So every guest that comes in gets a question from my mum. Right, so mum leaves a question as a voice note. So I'm going to play you the voice note.
Okay, I love that. Great.
And then we'll see what she's come out with.
This is fantastic.
Hi Tony and Sue. What's the number one personal quality that you need to be an estate agent? Thank you.
What's the number one personal quality? I feel like we've touched upon this slightly, but what's the number one personal quality to be an estate agent?
To listen.
That's just what I was going to say.
To listen. That's mine.
I was going to say listen.
Yeah.
Empathy.
Yeah.
I think. Listen to what people have got to say, what they're looking for as a seller and what they're looking for as a buyer.
Yeah.
Connection. Yeah.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for committing so much of your evening to sitting here and talking to me, because it's been an absolute pleasure. Lucy speaks of you so highly. So Lucy O'Brien, who was a previous guest, speaks of you so highly and the opportunities you've afforded her. But also, we need to acknowledge she's done so much from a marketing perspective for home.
Absolutely,
She's such a talent.
Huge.
She's also hooked us up and introduced us. So thank you so much for coming in. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I really appreciate it. To be honest with you, I was a bit nervous about doing this beforehand, but it's been great. So
you're welcome.
God knows how it'll come out, but
well done. That was really good.
Thank you very much.
Done.
Thank you.
You're all finished.